Right, so you saw what happened yesterday, and I know what you're feeling right now, because I felt it too. That horrible sinking feeling when the full-time whistle goes and you're watching your own fans booing the team off the pitch at the Emirates, at home, to Bournemouth. And look, I'm not here to be dramatic, I'm not here to say the season is over, but I am here to tell you something that I genuinely believe nobody is saying clearly enough right now. Arsenal could lose top spot. In 11 days, not might, could. Actually could. And when you map it out, when you look at the fixtures, the numbers, the form, the psychology, it stops being a scary thought and starts being a very real possibility. So let's talk about, because I think we need to be honest with ourselves right now, instead of hiding behind we're still 9 points clear. Because yes, technically, mathematically we are, but context matters. And the context around that 9-point lead has shifted dramatically in the last 48 hours. Actually, let me start with something that I think is being completely overlooked in all the noise around this result. The open play XG 0.19. That is Arsenal's open play expected goals figure from yesterday. 0.19 at home in a game we desperately needed to win. And here's what makes that number genuinely disturbing. It is the second lowest open play XG Arsenal have ever recorded at the Emirates in the entire Premier League era. The only time it was lower, a game against Crystal Palace back in October 2025. Think about that. Not a bad game, not a below par performance. The second worst attacking output at home in years against Bournemouth when we needed the 3 points most. That tells you something really important about what's happening with this team right now. And before I go any further, hey, I'm Amelia. If you're new here, welcome. I'm an Arsenal fan. I love this club deeply, and this channel is where I break down what's actually happening with Arsenal, the tactics, the psychology, the decisions in a way that goes beyond what the pundits are telling you. If that sounds like your kind of thing, hit subscribe. It means a lot. And if you want more content like this, give the video a like. It genuinely helps more people find it. Right, back to it, because here's where it gets really interesting. The XG story is one thing, but I want to talk about why Arsenal had a 0.19 open play XG, because the number is the symptom, not the cause. Watch the game back, and I mean really watch it, not the highlights, the actual game. What you'll see is an Arsenal team that completely lost the ability to progress the ball through midfield in open play. Every time they tried to build, and I mean genuinely tried to create something from open play, Bournemouth were pressing them into wide areas and denying the central channels. Rice was gesturing to his teammates to calm down. Saliba was being overhit with passes. Gabriel gave the ball away against his own man. And here's the thing about that. That's not individual mistakes. That's a collective anxiety playing out through technical errors. When a team is nervous, genuinely nervous, the first thing that goes is their passing rhythm. The second thing that goes is their movement. And when both of those go at the same time, you end up with a team that looks like it's playing through treacle. That was Arsenal yesterday. Now, I want to ask you something. And I want you to genuinely think about this rather than just defending the team out of loyalty. When have you seen Arsenal play like that at home this season? Because I've been watching every single game this season, every one. And I cannot think of another home performance where the team looked that anxious, that disconnected, that incapable of creating anything in open play. And the timing of it, that's what's really killing me. This wasn't just any game. This was supposed to be the game where Arsenal turned up, took care of business, went 12 points clear, and sent a message to Manchester City before the Etihad showdown next weekend. Instead, we got a 0.19 open play XG, 3 shots on target in the whole match, spread across Gyökeres, Declan Rice, and Gabriel Jesus, and an atmosphere inside the Emirates that slowly curdled from hopeful to tense to desperate to silent, and then boos. Look, I want to be clear about the boos. I understand why fans booed. I genuinely do, because it wasn't just a bad result. It was the way it happened, the lack of fight, the lack of urgency, the sense that the team wasn't matching the occasion. But here's what worries me more than the boos. It worries me that Arteta had to tell his players before the game to bring their breakfast, lunch and dinner, essentially saying, come mentally ready, come prepared. This is a big game. Why does a manager in April, with 9 points at the top of the Premier League, need to tell his players to be mentally prepared for a home game against Bournemouth? That question lingers for me, because what that suggests, and I could be wrong, tell me if I'm wrong, is that Arteta himself was concerned about the mental state of his players going into that game. He saw something in training, he felt something in the building, and he tried to address it publicly through the fans, hoping the atmosphere would do the work that he couldn't fully do behind closed doors. It didn't work. And now we're in a situation where the most important week of Arsenal's season possibly the most important week in Mikel Arteta's entire tenure, starts with that question hanging over everything. Are Arsenal mentally strong enough right now? Not technically, not tactically, mentally. Because here's the brutal truth. The form collapse we're seeing, and it is a form collapse, I'm not sugarcoating it, happened incredibly fast. 3 losses in the last 4 games in all competitions. But get this, Arsenal had only lost 3 games in their first 49 of the season. 3 losses in 49 games, then 3 losses in 4. That is not a coincidence. That is not bad luck. That is a team whose psychological foundation has been shaken. And it started at Wembley in the Carabao Cup final when City beat them 2-0. Then Southampton, a championship club, let's not forget, knocked them out of the FA Cup. And now Bournemouth at home. 3 consecutive domestic defeats for a team that had been the most consistent side in England for most of this season. Now here's where I want to push back slightly on the panic, because I don't think the season is gone. I really don't. One analyst I looked at had Arsenal's title probability moving from 90% to 87% after yesterday. That's barely moved. The math still says Arsenal should win the league, but math doesn't account for what happens inside a dressing room when confidence is shattered. And I think that's the real unknown here, because here's something else worth noting. Andoni Iraola, Bournemouth's manager, has now beaten Arteta 3 times in the Premier League. 3 times. Only Guardiola and Klopp have beaten him more. 3 times. Iraola, not Mourinho, not a superstar name. The manager of Bournemouth has figured Arteta out 3 times. And each time he does it, he uses the same principles. High press, compact shape, quick transitions, deny the central channels. And each time Arsenal struggle to adapt in the moment. That's a tactical problem that goes beyond one game. And this is where it gets interesting, because next Sunday, Arsenal travel to the Etihad to face Manchester City. Pep Guardiola, the man who has beaten Arteta more times than anyone in the Premier League, 7 times. Think about who has beaten Arteta most in the Premier League. Guardiola 7 times, Klopp 4, Iraola 3. 3 of those defeats have come at the Etihad. And Arsenal are going there next Sunday with a team that has lost 3 of their last 4, with a team that recorded 0.19 open play XG at home yesterday, with a team that was booed off by its own fans. Now, do you see why I'm worried? Let's map out exactly how City go top, because I want to do this proper. Today, Sunday, City go to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. If City win that, the gap goes from 9 points to 6, with City still having 1 game in hand over Arsenal. Then Wednesday, Arsenal host Sporting CP in the second leg of the Champions League quarter-final. Arsenal are 1 goal up from the first leg in Lisbon, so they need to progress. And they probably will. But that's a high-intensity European night 4 days before the Etihad clash. More fatigue, more physical and mental energy spent. Then Sunday, April 19th, City versus Arsenal at the Etihad. If City win that, and with the momentum they'd have from beating Chelsea playing at home against an Arsenal side in psychological freefall, the gap becomes 3 points, with City still having 1 game in hand. Then Wednesday, April 22nd, City play Burnley. Burnley are bottom of the league. This is as close to a guaranteed 3 points as football gets. If City win, and they will, they are level with Arsenal on 70 points. And then April 25th, Arsenal host Newcastle. Newcastle are 13th. You'd expect Arsenal to win. But a week ago, you'd have expected Arsenal to beat Bournemouth at home. So forgive me for not assuming anything. And if Arsenal drop points against Newcastle while City are level or ahead on goal difference, City go top. They actually go top of the Premier League. An 11-day swing from 9 points clear to no longer leading the table now. Does that scenario require multiple things to go right for City? Yes. But here's the thing, each individual step in that chain is not unlikely. City beating Chelsea away isn't a certainty, but it's very possible. City beating Arsenal at the Etihad with this Arsenal in this form is very possible. City beating Burnley is almost certain. The only part of the chain that truly requires Arsenal to actively lose ground is the Newcastle game. And the rest of it, City winning their games in hand, is simply City doing what good teams do. This is the point I keep coming back to. Arsenal's problem right now isn't City getting better. City's form since January, if you look at the underlying numbers, hasn't actually improved that dramatically. Their XG numbers haven't surged. They haven't suddenly become the team they were in their peak years under Guardiola. Arsenal's problem is Arsenal. The gap is narrowing not because City are charging, it's because Arsenal are stumbling. And there is a massive difference between those two things, tactically and psychologically. Because if City were surging, playing brilliant football, clicking on all cylinders, you'd accept it. You'd say, fine, the better team is winning. But City aren't doing that. Arsenal are handing them this opportunity. And here's the thing about the Bournemouth goal. The first goal, Krupi's goal, that I don't think gets enough attention. Yes, the ball deflected off Saliba. Yes, there was an element of misfortune. But watch the build-up. Christie plays through Arsenal's midfield completely unchallenged. Truffert gets in behind Ben White on the right side, the same right side that has been vulnerable all season when Madueke plays ahead of White rather than tracking back consistently. Truffert's cross comes in. Saliba is covering, but he's not in a commanding position because the defensive shape was already broken. The deflection happened. And Krupi, who is on the far post completely unmarked, taps in. Tell me how a striker is unmarked at the far post in your own ground in the 16th minute of a must-win game. That's not bad luck. That's defensive concentration, or the lack of it. And it tells me something about the mental state of the team going into that game. Because when you're sharp, when you're switched on, those things don't happen. When you're carrying anxiety into a game, when your mind is partly on the Etihad next week, partly on the Champions League on Wednesday, partly on the weight of history and not winning the title for 22 years, that's when you switch off for 2 seconds and Krupi is unmarked at the far post. That's the April curse. And I say that not as a superstition, I say it as a pattern. The pressure of the run-in, the accumulated fatigue, the weight of being this close to something that hasn't happened since 2004, it gets inside players' heads, it gets inside atmospheres, it gets inside stadiums. And yesterday, the Emirates felt it. The anxiety was palpable. I've seen it before. We've all seen it before with this club. The question, and this is the real question, is whether this group of players can shake it off in 6 days because they do not have time to wallow. Wednesday, Sporting CP arrives at the Emirates for the second leg of the Champions League quarter-final. Arsenal are 1 goal up from the first leg they need to progress. And a Champions League semi-final on top of a Premier League title run would be extraordinary, genuinely, historically extraordinary for this club. But they need to perform on Wednesday. They need to feel good about themselves going into the Etihad. And a nervous win over Sporting, or God forbid another defeat going into that City game, I don't even want to think about what that would do to the team's confidence. Here's my honest take, and this might be unpopular, but I'm going to say it. I think the week ahead is less about tactics and more about psychology. I think Arteta knows what's wrong tactically. He's a smart manager, one of the best in the league tactically. I genuinely believe that. He'll have a plan for City. He'll set up to make it difficult. But the tactical plan only works if the players execute it with belief. And right now, belief is the thing that's in shortest supply at the Emirates. Martin Keown said it on TNT. He said leaders need to emerge, and I agree with that, but I'd go further. It's not just leaders, it's the collective identity of the squad. Because here's something that got lost in all the post-match noise yesterday. For most of this season, Arsenal have been the most consistent team in England. Their 5-game rolling average of weighted goal difference has stayed between plus 0.7 and plus 1.7 all season. Never dropped below it, never spiked dangerously above it, just consistently, reliably good. That consistency is real. It's not a mirage. It didn't disappear overnight. But consistency in performance means nothing if confidence disappears, because confidence is what allows performance to happen. Without it, the technical quality is still there, but it can't express itself. Did you notice that Declan Rice, our best player, the heartbeat of this team, was basically reduced to calming down his own teammates in the first half yesterday, not driving forward, not dictating the game, managing anxiety? That's not Declan Rice. That's not who he is. When Rice is right, he's the engine. He's driving forward, carrying the ball, winning second balls, transitioning quickly. When he's reduced to being a calming influence, when he is the one trying to steady the ship, it means the ship needs steadying. And that worries me more than any tactical detail. Now, if I'm Arteta, and I've thought about this, what do I do this week? I pick a strong team against Sporting on Wednesday. I don't rotate too heavily. I know that sounds counterintuitive. Save legs for City, but I think Arsenal need a good performance more than they need fresh legs right now. They need to feel good about themselves. They need to build momentum going into the Etihad. A clinical, confident European performance on Wednesday could do more for this team's psychology than an extra day's rest. Then for City, I press, I go after them, I don't sit back. Because here's the tactical reality. Arsenal sitting in a low block at the Etihad, trying to absorb pressure and hit on the counter with Gyökeres against a City side that controls the ball and the tempo. That's a losing game plan. Arsenal have to be brave. They have to play their game. And if they lose being brave, I can live with that more than I can live with them losing being passive. But honestly, For me, the single biggest thing going into the City game isn't the formation, it isn't the personnel, it isn't the pressing triggers. It's whether Mikel Arteta looks his players in the eyes before that game and sees belief looking back at him, because we know what this squad can do when they're right. We've seen it all season. The away win at City earlier this year, the Champions League run, the consistency across 49 games. This team is good enough. They are absolutely good enough to go to the Etihad and get a result. But football at this level, at the very sharp end of a title race with this much history and pressure, becomes about so much more than quality. And here's my honest final thought on where this title race actually stands. Arsenal are still favourites, yes, mathematically. And even beyond the maths, the quality is there, the depth is there, 6 games to go, 9 points clear, even with City's games in hand. That's still a strong position. But I've watched this club for long enough to know that the title has never felt more fragile, not because of City's form, not because of Guardiola, but because of what I'm seeing from Arsenal right now. A team carrying the weight of 22 years of near misses, of runner-up finishes, of April collapses, of almost and not quite and so close. That weight is real. The April curse isn't spiritual, it's psychological. And it's sitting on the shoulders of every player who pulls on that shirt right now. The next 11 days will tell us everything we need to know about whether this squad has the mentality of champions, not the talent, not the tactics, the mentality. And I genuinely don't know the answer to that yet. Do you? Drop it in the comments. Tell me honestly, are you still confident, or has something shifted for you after yesterday? Because I'm really curious to know where the fan base is right now. Are we believing or are we bracing? Either way, I'm here every step of the way, covering every moment of this, the Sporting game Wednesday, the City game Sunday, every single decision that matters between now and the end of this season. If you're not subscribed yet, now is the time, because this is the content you want when it gets real, and it just got very real. I'll see you Wednesday. Come on, Arsenal.